Why are Centralpoint Forms so important? When you think about it, any user activity or request really starts out as a form. This is where data is collected, whether it be to submit a new article for approval, onboarding a new employee, or to dynamically generate a filled-out health insurance application in PDF format. These incoming requests need to be stored and often routed to others for notification or approval. This workflow could have one simple approval or follow a multi-step workflow triggered by a variety of logic. Ultimately, when this form is filled out and makes it through its workflow, the status of this approval may trigger something to happen. This could trigger products to be shipped or forward the data submitted from the initial form onto HR or IT for onboarding. So, one form submitted and approved might trigger another form to someone else for an entirely different reason. So, Centralpoint Forms need to be able to do something. Submission against these forms, if it meets the required workflow for each, must transform the initial request into something, whether that be mapping all fields to a document template to output a finished PDF, proposal, or to generate fulfillment. Finally, all results of any incoming form must be saved for the benefit of reporting, whether these requests were approved or not. This means that the live reporting for all activity of any kind must be able to be extracted, viewed in an Excel, chart, graph, Tableau, or other to monitor activity around that type of request. Furthermore, these forms may need to leverage the user's login with Active Directory, OAuth, or SAML in order to pre-populate fields for each user, making it easy. So, when you are using the Forms wizard, any field name which may match those fields contained in your ID management system will automatically be pre-populated for each of your users after they log in and access this form. Any Centralpoint form consists of three fundamental components. When opening up a new or existing form, you will see three tabs at the top, entitled General, Workflow, and Processing. First, the General tab allows you to determine what fields you will want to collect and how each field must be validated. This initial form could be a multi-step, session-based wizard offering many tabs, like if you were to fill out something lengthy like a mortgage application or onboarding series of questions. This allows the user to fill out a large form, one section at a time, should you need to do so. Most forms consist of only one singular page, but it is nice to know that should this form ever expand into a multi-part form, completely with next and back buttons, you can. Additionally, if this were a session-based multi-part form, it also is able to save the user's work, should they need to step away from the screen or finish at a later time. The General tab also allows you to thank your user or instruct them on next steps once the form has been submitted. This might return them to another page on your site or allow you to manage the specific message you want them to see. In this section called Thank You Message, you may want to offer them a download link to the PDF version of the document created after having filled out their form. The next tab, Workflow, allows you to determine who, if anyone, should receive these incoming requests. This feature will allow one or more users to be emailed immediately once the form is submitted, including custom subject lines and/or prompts which will allow for approval or denial, right from your email to more easily respond to each. The final tab, called Processing, allows you to do something with the information submitted from the initial form. Perhaps this is to feed one of your back-office systems via web services, or maybe it is to dynamically generate a PDF of their application. Or perhaps it is to also save the newly created PDF into a CRM like Salesforce or other, to be saved in line with the client or user ID who filled it out. Many times, it is more than one processing step, like the last example, where we will want to dynamically map their fields to a document template to generate a PDF or Word document, then to move that new document into another system, and update Active Directory of a new user's credentials. In the old days, relative to mainframe computers, this was called multiplexing, and it allowed you to take the action of one user to generate multiple outputs to different places. Centralpoint's form processing supports custom integration leveraging RESTful web services, secure encrypted SFTP transmission to other systems, and the ability to customize the routing or plumbing to any back-office system you have. Although you could set up a form from scratch in Centralpoint, it is much easier to either work from an existing form we have set up as an example, which you can easily copy, changing only what is needed, including its workflow. Or more than likely, you may want to create a new complex form from scratch. If you do, we strongly recommend the use of our Forms wizard. This tool is found under the Forms category of the Client Console and acts as a guide for you to answer some questions, which allows you to create a form, its workflow, its output, and its processing faster than you could set up one field at a time. To take advantage of the Forms wizard, we ask you to study the form you want. You may have already printed form you use, or know exactly what fields you will want to collect from your users. So, to take full advantage of Centralpoint's Form Wizard, we ask that you analyze how many fields you will need of each. When we say this, we mean the different field types which make up your form. Typically with forms, there are many text box areas, which are used for things like first name, last name, address, city, state, etc. But forms often also offer one or multiple date selectors, or file uploads, should you need the user to upload files like photos or documents. Additionally, forms can offer fields like checkboxes or lists, or even electronic signatures for your users to sign with their finger or stylus before submitting. The fields you want to add to your form may also end up integrating with your other back-office systems eventually. For an example, the field for first name might integrate with your field in another system called fname. This suggests that a stitch in time, save 9. Step back, analyze your form's needs, and count how many of each field you will need to collect. And if you can, what the corresponding field name is within the system, which may eventually inherit that form's submission down the line. So, within the tab called Configure Your Fields, do your best to analyze the needs of your data collection for this form. Consider it of any integration. Once you have these counts, totally how many of each field type you want, then put in the number of each. In the next tab, you will be renaming your form fields, giving them the field prompts the user will see on the front end. It will also ask you for any integration names you want to relate to each field, should you be feeding another system later. In this tab, you can also specify which fields are required, which are not, and for those that are required, what are the validation rules for each. These would be options like must meet a US telephone number format or zip code or email address. Once completed naming each of your fields and double-checking which should be validated or required, the next tab will ask you to lay out your new form. Typically, it is easiest to offer all fields vertically in a single column, but if you wanted to stagger the fields on the page, you have the ability to configure how many fields you want to appear per column within your form. Once you have selected how many fields will appear in each column, you will select which fields you want found within each row and column. Once completed, this will give you a general preview of what the form will look like, high level. In the next tab, this will ask you questions about any workflow associated to this form, who should receive those incoming forms. Here it will also ask you if you with no transform the fields collected into a document using a document template, or what the thank you message should say to the user after having filled out the form. During this step, it will also ask you if you would like to collect all form submissions into a dedicated module found under Content. This is often used to make the results better searchable and/or easier integrated within our systems. If so, select the module you wish to use or sacrifice for all form submissions, and the wizard will do two things. First, it will map all of your newly created fields directly to these newly created fields in the module, but it will also provide you with a link to an XML document. This XML document will be used within the receiving module and be uploaded into the module configuration of your receiving module. Uploading this new module configuration into your receiving module will alter the fields for your receiving module to match the fields you've outlined in your form, allowing each field filled out from your form to map precisely to a field named the same within your Centralpoint module you've selected. Whether you wish to do this at this step or not, it is still a good idea to select a module, simply to create the necessary XML document, should you ever need to expand on this form at a later date. Once you are done and hit Submit, the Forms wizard will dynamically create your new form in the Forms module. Once you have created your new form, go to View in the Module view by clicking on Forms from the Client Console. To the far right of each form, under the column called Preview, you will see a link to view your newly created form. At the bottom of that preview lives the CP script, or placeholder to call to your form. Copy this link and paste it wherever you want within your site. Let's now go to Site Navigation to put our form on a page. Again, how we tag this page will control who will actually see this form to begin with, as it might be only for certain users by role or audience. Additionally, since this is a form, this navigation may need to inherit SSL encryption, so that the form fields will be encrypted for the users within the URL. This is an important feature, as controlling privacy over the fields your users will fill out is essential to meet new privacy standards, including GDPR. Now that we have added our form to a page, let's go visit our form and fill it out. For this example, after filling it out, we may reload the page, allowing multiple submissions to be added easily to the form for testing purposes. Returning to the client console and clicking on the results of our form will show us all of the many form submissions for that specific form. This means that Centralpoint is collecting every field from every form submitted, including tracking when each request was ever made. So, as you create new forms, you are ready to start collecting the many results for each form in a nice, organized way. Typically, when users see this, they ask, "Can I report on these incoming forms?" And the answer is yes. Often it is essential to track all incoming requests of a particular type, and sometimes even show graphs or charts to indicate whether you are trending up or down with these types of requests. This brings us to data sources. Data sources allow us to create live reporting against any user activity, which would include results of any form. If you originally used the Forms wizard to create your new form, as we did in our example, the Forms wizard would have generated a data source or live reporting for a newly minted form. So, whenever you create a new form in the Forms wizard, trust that there will be a data source waiting for you to show you live reporting should you ever need it. This data source will be named the same as your created form, and in our case, that was called My New Form. When viewing, this results in the preview view. You will see all form submissions shown to you in a sortable Excel-like report, which can easily be modified to present itself as a chart or a graph. This report can also be added to your enterprise with specific audience or roles assignment, giving only the right users the ability to see these search results. Let's add our data source to only the intranet, with private access for management to easily see this form's activity in real time. We will now log in to test how the data source is seen by management. You may also add this data source to a module called Reporting, which allows for your internal team to search for any or all reports they have access to see to easily get to. Another consideration may be to add this data source to your personalized homepage catalog, allowing your users to add it to their homepage if it is something important they wish to see at all times. Since your form could have been to collect new sales inquiries or perhaps new resumes of users applying for positions with you, or to report a customer service issue, these live reports against the forms are very popular. Centralpoint Forms allow you to collect anything from anyone, making their online submission easy. Centralpoint data sources allow for you to then share those requests with anyone you need, because Centralpoint Forms is collecting each incoming request, including its workflow, if it required any. This means you have real-time insight into all incoming requests for anyone at all times, indicating whether you are showing an increase or decrease of certain types of requests over time. This digital experience can provide you insight into the needs of your users. For an example, monitoring incoming customer service issues, which are very similar, may indicate that better FAQs are needed to stave off these requests and reduce your customer service issues. Monitoring which products have outsold others via incoming order forms may help you better stock your inventory. Tracking incoming leads and the amount of time it took for your agents to reply to these new clients via the workflow may give you better insight into your responsiveness to close new business. This type of thinking helps you to appreciate why Centralpoint Forms and data sources are vital to your business. Stepping back to realize that any request made by anyone, employee, partner, or customer, begins with the form they submit, will allow you to full leverage the power of Centralpoint's digital experience platform and put you at the helm of enterprise, monitoring all user requests and activity, which will allow you and your departments to respond more rapidly. Even the live reporting of specific forms activities can be delivered via email, daily via Centralpoint broadcasts. These routines may alert HR daily of all new applicants or alert all sales team of all incoming opportunities over the past week for their follow-up. The opportunities are endless.